Welcome, and thank you for attending our exclusive virtual event, Recover America Restaurant Symposium, brought to you by Foodable Network, and our special partners at VirusSafe Pro, WorkMerc, Tyson, and Rever Networks. I'm Brittany Cascone, and I will be your guide throughout this virtual experience. Recover America is a virtual event created to assist the restaurant and hospitality industry prepare for the future by providing real insights into latest consumer trends through engagement, communication, and innovation. Today, we've gathered restaurant executives, operators, and leading experts in the hospitality space around the world in an effort to support and help the industry rebuild and create a new future for restaurants. You may have attended some of our past virtual events, and we thank you for joining us again on the industry-leading virtual event platform Foodable.io. So here's an idea for you. You're looking to ramp up your virtual events and want to look good doing it, right? Here at Foodable, we have built a platform just for you. If you're looking to provide an event for partners, employees, or customers, our platform is designed to reach broader audiences for greater engagement. And best of all, it creates educational content that can set your brand apart. Shoot us an email to virtual@foodabletv.com so we can help build a virtual event for your business. Now, on to our Recover America Restaurant Symposium. Get ready for a group of jam-packed sessions with educational and innovative content, plus live chat and Q&A with some of the top minds in the food service and hospitality industry. Today, we look forward to sharing inventive and informative insights brought to you by some of the industry's leading experts as they reveal the latest services, technology, and trends vital for a new breed of operator. And check this out. You will get a chance to interact with our speakers during each session. If you're on a desktop, be sure to navigate to the right side of your screen to begin submitting questions during our live Q&A. And if you're on mobile, navigate below the video to the chat tab to submit your questions and engage in conversations, polls, and special links. To kick off our virtual event, I want to welcome today's moderator, our CEO and executive producer here at Foodable Network, Paul Barron. Paul is a technology and consumer science expert with over 25 years of restaurant and business experience. In addition, he is the author of the award-winning book Chipotle Effect, as well as the director of Fast Casual Nation, the first book and documentary tandem in food service on the fast casual sector. Joining him is another world-renowned author, Robert Irvine. Robert is a world-class celebrity, chef, and entrepreneur, and tireless philanthropic supporter of our nation's military. The host of Food Network's hit show, Restaurant Impossible. He has given struggling restaurateurs a second chance to turn their lives and business around in over 200 episodes and counting. Robert has written 4 books, the latest of which is titled Family Table by Robert Irvine, which is both a cookbook and meditation on how to bring your family closer using the dinner table. He is also the publisher of Robert Irvine Magazine, a free digital publication delivering workouts, recipes, and motivational content. Additionally, Robert has recently partnered with WorkMerc to deploy VirusSafe Pro, a health and safety checklist and verification software solution designed to give employees and customers the peace of mind that they need to come back to business. Gentlemen, take it away with your fireside chat, bringing guests back into your restaurant.
All right, so welcome to our first volume of Recover America. Now, what this symposium is bringing back the restaurant business across America. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to break down some of the best experts in the world, including operators, celebrity chefs, as well as suppliers that are really going to kind of dive into some of the biggest challenges the restaurant industry is faced with currently. But more importantly, as 2021 starts to progress, there's going to be a lot of changes that you as an operator are going to be dealing with. So hopefully this series of virtual events is going to be something that you can really get some education format into and really bite your teeth into kind of how you're going to run your business. With me on our first keynote discussion is Mr. Chef Robert Irvine. And if you maybe don't know Chef Robert Irvine, if you don't, you've been under a rock for the past decade or so. Robert Irvine is a world-class chef and entrepreneur and tireless philanthropic supporter of our nation's military, the host of Food Network's hit show, Restaurant Impossible, and he has been giving struggling restaurants a second chance to turn their lives and business around for over 200 episodes and counting. So Robert was really kind of the best keynote discussion I felt we could have to kick off Recover America, because that's what he's doing in Restaurant Impossible every day. So with me today, joining me live, is Chef Robert Irvine. Great to have you.
Hey, what's up, Paul?
Hey, man. All right, so Robert, you have been living this whole process of turning restaurants around for years. So you've got probably, I would say, the most expertise in the world in terms of how restaurants are dealing with challenges on a day in, day out basis. Let's just jump right into it. I know you've got a lot to talk about, and I want to kind of hear your thoughts of how and what trends you're seeing as we move into 2021 in terms of how restaurants need to be thinking about getting guests back in their restaurants.
Well, right now, we're seeing this whole swing back of guests getting more comfortable in restaurants, right? So end of 2020 going into 2021.
Right.
I'm going to tell you what I believe, and we've done, since COVID started, probably 40 restaurants. I've got another 4 we just finished now. We're seeing that people want to support their local restaurants. We're seeing that people are still very, very nervous about do I go to a restaurant? Don't I go to a restaurant? I think 2021 with the introduction, not right away of the vaccine, but once people start to feel comfortable with the vaccine, you're going to see a lot more guests in restaurants, in society. There's still a third of people that won't venture outside of their homes.
Right.
And it's really interesting because I see now on a daily basis of the restaurants that we're doing, and I'm talking to guests. Yes, they're wearing the masks that we have, right? We're following protocols. But I truly believe that beginning to mid quarter, the first quarter of next year, we're going to see a lot more people venture into restaurants because they're feeling much more safe.
Right. Well, okay. So when you look at Q1, obviously we, just here as we're recording this virtual series, the case count has been escalating up again. We're going into our flu season. Obviously, we're going into the winter months in some of these markets where in restaurant dining, if you look at markets like Chicago, who has removed in-restaurant dining again, in a city that is really a cold city, that seems to be a really tough move for, I think, a lot of operators in being able to just kind of jump to curbside, takeout, delivery, whatever model they're using for away from the restaurant. But I want to talk about the guests themselves, because this is really kind of putting a different kind of scenario on guests themselves, psychologically, socially, all those kinds of things. Is there something as an operator that you think you should be doing or operators should be doing to kind of get guests back in the framework of, hey, it's okay to go to restaurants again when it is safe in my community? Because I still fear that repercussion of guests just not coming back.
Well, you just hit the nail on the head there. COVID cases are increasing, and that was to be expected. We've gone from a lockdown to open. People are mingling. Some people are following rules. Others aren't. We're having major gatherings. It's only a matter of time. And I've said this, having had COVID myself, in the beginning stages. People are still nervous, but they're more apt to go to a restaurant now. But what the operators can do is talk about what protocols that they are doing. And it's not a bucket of sanitizer, or hand sanitizer when you walk in the door. It's
right.
Really on the website saying, hey, listen, these are the protocols we're following. This is what we're doing to ensure that you're safe. And by all means, take a look at what we're doing. One thing I've said in Restaurant Impossible, but also in my own restaurants, I invite everybody into my kitchens to show them we're wearing gloves. Before COVID, we're doing this in the refrigerators. It's really about, and I've said this 1,000 times, the guest comfort level. And if you're being transparent as a restaurant operator, whether it's takeout or whether it's dining or it's 25%, 100%, whatever it is, and these states are so different, Paul, right now. It's not only the federal government saying things, the state government and the county governments are all different. So when I go to all these different places, I'm like, okay, where are we now? What are we doing? And the misinformation from all those I've just said, because they all contradict each other. You know, we've got CDC, we've got NIH, we've got all these bodies, and every 4 hours things are changing again.
Exactly.
So how am I as a guest supposed to feel comfortable to come to your restaurant unless you're telling me what you're doing individually in those restaurants? And I don't think our operators are doing enough of that. We've got websites, use the websites to tell us what you're doing. So when I look for a restaurant, at least it's on there. It says, hey, we've got, ultraviolet light in our system. We've got hand sanitizer, all the things that you're doing, because then I'm more apt to go to your restaurant than to the guy that's not doing anything.
So you just mentioned something I thought was interesting, and it's also, I think, about messaging, and you're definitely hitting it on the head, because that is part of the process. In the past, it was always kind of communicating what you were doing from a culinary aspect, or maybe from a marketing aspect of how you run your service business, to make those experiences just amazing and people want to come to your restaurant. Yeah. Now it seems like safety, food safety, precautions, and also the kind of the steps of safety instead of the steps of service these days on being able to protect both guests and people in the restaurant. I saw something last night. I went down and visited a restaurant that they told me they were doing something, and they were using these ultraviolet hand wands right before a guest sat down. So you were basically escorting the maitre d'. Before the maitre d' sat you down, you paused for a moment. They used this hand wand over your cutlery, your plate, your tablecloth, and then you sat down. That made me feel so good. I was like, why is this not? Exactly.
Absolutely right. And I have one of those. I carry one on the road with me. It's about this big. And I do the same thing in my hotel room. I'm that guy, right? So I think when you see those things, or you're told those things, you just said it, you feel comfortable. And you're apt to turn around and say, oh, listen, by the way, on social media that we use for pictures and all those things that we used to do, now we're saying, hey, listen, I went to Robert Irvine's restaurant last night, and they used that wand, and it was amazing, and the menus and all the things that we're doing, using technology, of course, it makes me feel good. I'm going to go back, and you tell, it used to be 10 people write a bad review. Now it's millions of people with a social media aspect. And I think that's how we're going to start to encourage people. But it's going to take the operators to be able to say, hey, listen, guys, we're doing this. We've got specials, but this is what we're doing to keep you safe.
So marketing-wise, because that's something that comes up a lot, at least on my Twitter feed, on what kind of things can you do as a marketing tip for restaurants in this, because most people are like, hey, listen, I don't want to show my feature special tonight. I'd rather show how I'm going to keep them safe in my restaurant. Would you say that an operator really needs to focus on these precautionary components versus going back to kind of selling the food and selling the service? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a mix of both. We still want to be enticed by the food, but I want to know, like I just said, that you're safe. So I think it's kind of 50-50. Show me a picture of the food, but then tell me what your servers are doing as well. Because, again, I'm going to walk in the restaurant, and the first thing, if I see somebody, a server, for example, has 3 tables, and they're wearing gloves and they visit 3 tables, I'm not going to feel safe. So tell me that the server, after serving your table, takes the gloves off, washes their hands, puts new gloves on. What is your system for delivering food and clearing tables? In my restaurants, in the Pentagon and everywhere else, is saying, okay, I teach that there's only one person or 2 people, depending on the number of people in the restaurant, that are clearing dirty plates. They're the only people that touch dirty plates. My servers that are serving you food don't touch dirty plates. Well, that's a big deal to people. So tell me you're doing that. And that makes you feel good. It really does.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Those kind of steps of safety really are not being conveyed in a lot of restaurants unless you're in the business and you're kind of sitting there watching the process happen in front of you to understand really what kind of precautions the restaurant is taking. You probably, as an average consumer, don't pick those things up.
For sure.
It just doesn't, you're not a hawk for that. Most of the time you're worried about the people around you and what's happening at your table and all those kind of things, when in reality there's a lot happening inside the restaurant. I want to get your opinion on what you're concerned about in the industry coming in the next few months? Obviously, we're going into winter season. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges from operators? Is it mostly tactical? Is it execution, preparation, technology adoption? Where would you say would be some of the issues that you say, really watch out for this?
All of the above, definitely technology. but my biggest worry right now, and it's happening in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, it's happening in New York, is, we've allowed outside dining. And only just now, and you know this, we said, okay, we can have 25% in dining in New York and all these other places. Well, I've been sitting in Philadelphia, this past 4 months eating outside. Well, now, sorry, but I don't want to sit outside in minus degrees temperatures.
Yep.
I don't care how many heat lamps you've got or whatever. But now how am I going to make the money only allowing, 20% people into my restaurant? How am I laying off people? We still don't have our hospitality business back because of COVID, which means the service, the amount of people we have in the restaurant, the service, I don't think is going to be as good because we're trying to keep costs down. So we don't bring back 3 people. We bring back, maybe 2 instead of the third person because we still got to make money. And my biggest worry is when we start to bring people back into restaurants, we don't have enough coverage service-wise. We don't have enough cooks because we're trying to remain lean, which means we don't give the quality of the food or the service. And a lot of people would argue with me on that. But I'm on the road right now watching. My job is to watch services and make them better. And I see it so often that we're cutting back, our food spend, we're cutting back our labor spend because the people are not coming through the doors or we can't make as much money. So I think they're my biggest worries. Hey, bite the bullet, bring in the person you think you need to do the job, give a guest experience spectacular, that they go away and talk about your safety protocols, your touchless credit card, all those things that we talked about before, the technology piece. And let's start to encourage people because the less we do of this information, technology, sanitation, protocols, and service, we'll still have 20%, and mark my words when I say this, we will still have 20% of restaurants closing in the new year.
Yeah. Yeah, I had Andrew Zimmern on one of our shows here recently, the Barron Report, and Andrew and I were talking about that very topic. Is he was really concerned, obviously, with the Restaurant Act and what and if we get the support, but he's really concerned about this winter with many of the northern climates, and really for the most part, most of the cities in the U.S. are going to start seeing pretty bad temperatures. So that's going to be a big factor, other than just being able to worry about some of these big scenarios. But like you just mentioned, I think you hit it on the head, was this whole situation of service being at risk. And I've experienced that because here's what you're seeing is kind of this blend of takeout. Remember, everybody's been doing takeout for all this time. Yeah. And then you have this blend of service starting to come back into restaurants, at least down here in Florida.
Yeah.
So now you have both dragons in the house. You've got 15 takeout orders, which you've never had at 7 p.m. before.
Right.
And now you've got 15 table reservations all landing at the same time. Oh my God, that's a Restaurant Impossible show right there. How do you solve that?
And you're right. And we're afraid, we pivoted nicely into that takeout because we've had no in restaurant dining.
Right.
Now we've got them both coming back, and by the way, I don't want to lose the takeout because I don't know what the government is going to, or the governors of the states are going to do next. So I'm afraid to shrink the menu or change because we're still uncertain about what does 2021 bring. And I think operators have really got to almost throw caution to the wind. Be smart when you bring in people in, servers and staff, because you've still got to make the money. But you've got to be bold enough to make a decision and stick by it.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's tough right now.
Well, and I think you're right. It's going to be a very interesting mix of operators that are able to juggle both balls and do it effectively. because you could hurt your reputation here. You could hurt your service reputation. And if you do need to have a takeout reputation that maybe you've built up over the past few months and it's like you're getting it right, you could actually hurt that reputation. So it's definitely a balancing act for operators today.
I have a restaurant in New Hampshire I did 6 years ago. You may remember it. It was by a covered bridge, and they were losing $350,000 a year. They're now doing $2.4 million a year. When COVID hit, she literally, Jen Leonzi, did an outside takeout area, put a takeout window in the restaurant, and was doing both, just like you say, juggling. And 2 days ago, because the COVID cases rose, she went back from no dining in the restaurant, only dining outside.
Okay.
And I'm worried for her and I told her 2 days ago, because listen, you can still seat the restaurant because you feel uncomfortable. And they're doing testing, by the way, testing of their staff every couple of days, just like we do on the road. I said, listen, you've got to bite it. Keep your restaurant open, even if you're doing 25%. Keep it open. Don't close it, because the minute you start losing customers, they're not coming back. They're going somewhere else.
Yeah, they're pretty much done.
And that's my worry.
Sure. Yeah. Robert, I have a few notes here on this next topic, and that is your thoughts on safety mandates within the restaurant. This is something that restaurant operators are really kind of struggling with, because they've kind of become the police of the guests and the protocols. So when you look at things like touch on restaurants being basically you have to control whether or not people are wearing masks or not wearing masks, whether they're keeping social distance or not in the waiting area, or maybe in the bar areas as they use it for a waiting area when they come in.
Yeah.
And then how do operators deal with these kinds of guests that are starting to push back on this? Have you seen, because it kind of puts you in a bad position. How do you deal with that?
It is a bad position, and I literally 2 days ago, so I can answer this. We have a protocol in a restaurant. Impossible. When we open a restaurant, we do COVID testing, instant testing. You have to wear a mask until you're sat. We social distance you, etc.
Right.
But I had somebody say, "Hey, listen, I'm not wearing a mask when I come into your restaurant. I'll wear it into the restaurant. When I sit down, I want to take the mask off." And I said, "Well, unfortunately, for the other guests that don't feel comfortable, even though they're 6 foot away, I have to make a decision. Do I keep 25 guests comfortable, or do I upset one guest?"
Okay.
And I'm sorry, but 25 guests being comfortable to me is more important. And how you deliver that news is tough, because you're always going to be the bad guy or girl. But the safety of the other patrons, and listen, I wear a mask all the time, regardless whether I'm outside or inside, is to make people feel comfortable when they come close to me. So
it is. It is definitely more the social acceptance side of things. All right, so that's kind of a scenario where you do have that social distancing. We are seeing most people abide by it, but let's say you have it's a hop-in restaurant. I've witnessed this here in South Florida, and people start to just kind of inch a little closer and inch a little closer. And the maitre d' basically has to come in and do a barge in and say, "Hey, listen, everybody, we're gonna have to ask 2 people to leave the bar area because you're just too close."
Well, I use the federal government as the excuse, right?
Okay.
And I do. I have no problem saying, "Hey," and it happened to me. I live in Florida as well, and when I'm home, I go to restaurants that we're 100%, right? And some great restaurants there that I frequent. But I still need my space. I don't want you in my face. And I'm like, "Excuse me, could you separate a little bit?" And I've done it myself, not the maitre d'.
Right.
And people are generally, and I say generally, okay with it. But it depends how you deliver that message, right? Because if I say, "Hey, I'm not comfortable with you being next to me. Can you move?" But there's gonna be fights in restaurants.
It is. It's a
altercation.
little sensitive for sure.
Yeah. But I think look. There's 2 groups of people. There's 3 really. The people that don't come out, but there's 2 groups of people that we have on planes in society, right? I'm not wearing a mask. I don't care. right? And then you've got people that care, and there's always going to be this, tugging of who's right,
Yep.
who's wrong. But
Right.
science has told us, hey, this is what we have to do regardless. The government are now giving fines to people and whatnot if you don't follow protocols. And that's what I think is going to happen to the restaurant industry soon. Our health inspectors, even though we don't have enough of them, and we don't, and it's the local governments that should have more, but they don't have the funds, and that's why you see these restaurants that are not kept to standards. It's not the health department's fault; it's because they don't have enough inspectors. But at some point, it will be their job to make sure that restaurants are COVID compliant.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think we're going to see a lot of regulations start to spin out of this that are going to become kind of standards. I want to talk to you about that further on. But okay, so you're involved with a company called VirusSafe Pro, which I've been researching for quite some time. I'm intrigued with what that product is and kind of the way it works. I don't want to kind of take the thunder, but tell me a little bit about how it works and how you think it could work in helping restaurants kind of get back on the right track.
Well, VirusSafe Pro came out of necessity, really, and it was Workmerk, a group of veterans that had already started working on it, but I've been doing it for many years. In fact, all of us have been doing it for many years. We have a group of standing operating procedures in each restaurant, for the most part, whether you're mom and pop or you're corporate. And what we've done is say, okay, VirusSafe Pro is a bunch of checklists and verifications, just like you have in your own restaurant, but put onto a social media, an electronic platform, a smartphone, that can be verified that we have done all those jobs that we said we're going to do. Okay. And then once we've done those jobs, and again, it goes back to the customer satisfaction and the customer feeling of, oh yeah, they're taking care of me. We put a verification or a sticker in the window with a QR code that you can check of what my restaurant's been doing for the past 24, 48, whatever amount of hours. And we give you the information that you want to share with the customers. For me, the biggest transparency is, hey, listen, we're doing all these things. And you can see what we're doing. And when these tasks are not done, it comes up like, the big flashing thing saying, hey, you haven't swept the floor. And that sounds trivial, but it's not. Or you haven't cleaned the refrigerator, or you haven't cleaned the bathrooms. They're health checklists that are verified. And we can say all you want that, oh, we've done them. And we see it in airports. We see it in the bathrooms with the happy smiley faces or the unhappy faces. This is VirusSafe Pro is something that it goes onto a desktop and it's reported. We can keep that for 2, 3, 4 years. So if you come to me and say, hey, I got sick in your restaurant, I can say, well, and it goes to court, and we see a lot of that just lately. I've got this particular day, month, time, whatever it is. I go back and say, well, these were the protocols that were used. So I doubt very much. It's not 100%. No, it's not. But it's a record that says this is our standard, and this is what we do. And this day was no different. So the checklists are verifiable, and it gives me as an owner a peace of mind, but also the customer a peace of mind. And
for sure.
So
I like that.
Basic.
Yeah, and I like the QR code component because, now with most modern day smartphones, all you have to do is just click your camera open. It automatically recognizes it. So it's very fast too. Last question before we leave this session, and that is, if you look at the sectors being fast casual, full service, or even QSR, which one do you think really excels next year in 2021?
Good question. I think there's a lot of money being spent on QSRs. And a lot of people that have in dining are switching to QSR, a drive-through kind of stuff. I think the QSR is going to excel tremendously. You're going to see double-digit growth in those areas that haven't already had it.
Yeah, for sure. Robert, it's been great having you. Thank you so much for stopping in here on Recover America. Thanks a lot for stopping in.
Thanks, Paul. Keep doing great work.
Catch you next time. Appreciate it. All right, you guys are listening in, you're tuning in, maybe you're watching here live. Use the chat bubble that you see there on your screen or on your mobile device, you'll scroll down. You can actually talk to us, do some Q&A throughout the day, as we have a lot of different topics, and basically rock stars really talking about their journey through dealing with COVID and kind of coming out on the other side. Stay tuned right here for more great content on Recover America.